Battlefield 6 has had quite a lot of really cool things about it since it came out, but there has been a pretty big problem that cannot honestly be ignored, and that has to be Portal. Before Battlefield 6 came out, I actually made a video talking about how cool Portal sounded, all the neat features that they were actually going to be adding, and what the capabilities of Portal are. If you're someone that used to play Halo, you probably already know about Halo Forge, and you know about these sorts of games that include these sorts of custom game creation type stuff. So obviously Portal sounds like it's really cool because it takes that concept and puts it into Battlefield, which includes Battlefield level destruction and chaos and gunplay and movement and the things that just people like. But the thing is, Portal just hasn't been meeting people's expectations. That's exactly what I'm going to be talking about in today's video. But before we do that, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications set to all so you can stay up to date with all of the Battlefield 6 content here in the channel. And let's just dive right on into it. Portal as a mode in Battlefield 6 was present in Battlefield 2042. The concept of Portal isn't exactly new or 100% unique. It's been done in other games before and in Battlefield. The whole idea of Portal is that you as a player can actually host a server. You can create custom game experiences with specific rule sets. For instance, hardcore, or you can ban certain types of guns, or you can limit movement capabilities. You can do pretty much whatever it is that you want to customize the experience of the game. Plus, you can actually build maps in Battlefield 6's Portal. This was something that was more robust for Battlefield 6's Portal compared to previous iterations of the system. So the fact that you can actually basically be like a map designer slash game dev in a way. It's actually more complex, but it's got more capabilities to be as unique as possible. And I made a video some time back talking about my favorite Portal servers, and I've seen some really cool creations on Portal. So why exactly is it not working? Why is Portal kind of dying in Battlefield 6? So a couple of problems occurred in the course of Portal since the game launched. First off, when Portal came out, people were using it to make XP bot farms. And basically what that is that you just populate a server with a ton of bots with the goal of just farming XP. That was about it. And that was done to level up weapons, level up the character, because progression at the beginning of the game's life cycle was considerably slower than it is today. And so pretty much every single thing being made in Portal was a bot farm, to the point where it was just taking up all the available server space and leaving no room for any actual cool creations in Portal. And then Battlefield decided to solve this problem by basically removing any and all XP that you could gain from bots. And this angered a lot of people because one of the early marketing pieces for Portal was that you could create basically single player PvE experiences with bots. And so for people that felt like it was basically kind of a rug pull, that it was taking away the advertised feature. In all fairness, obviously they didn't advertise that you could create bot farms, but I feel like that should have been expected that that was going to happen because people will always want an advantage over others and they want to level up faster. That's just kind of how it is. Some people are just like that. Some people don't want to do that. It doesn't matter. People that want to level up faster exist enough that bot farms were highly in demand. So then Battlefield decided to fix that situation by bringing back XP for bot interactions, but making it limited compared to player against player interactions. So technically you could get XP again from bots, albeit at a slower pace than before, but you could still get XP. And so all of a sudden, all the bot farms start coming back in because now they actually work. You just need to do more, but they work. Plus, there is also the increasing issue of the fact that you don't get full XP progression from Portal anymore. It's basically been nerfed. The bot XP's been nerfed. Basically, anything that made Portal feel actually encouraging to work towards or to work on has kind of been taken away from the players in response to certain things like bot farms, but that in turn kind of punishes everybody who just wanted to have fun and play casually. So that was kind of the first problem with Portal. And now the second problem with Portal doesn't really necessarily have to do with Portal as a structure, but more the actual structure of the UI and the menu. So recently, the creative director of Ripple Effect talked about this situation and said that basically the way the menus are being implemented in Battlefield 6 is just not helping players discover Portal. So when you go into Battlefield 6, what you're going to notice is that the menu looks like a streaming services menu, something like Netflix or Hulu or whatever. This has been a weird design trend in the games industry for menus, and this has kind of been around because of Call of Duty. I want to say they really popularized this Hulu UI look. I think think the thing that happened here is you can look at this menu and say that it looks really good for a design concept, not for a video game. The problem with implementing this style of menu into a video game is that it doesn't account for the fact that video games are supposed to be fast and accessible. You want to load in and you want to start playing right away. You don't want to have to sort through 100 cubes of the same thing over and over just to get to the game mode that you want. So what happens is a lot of people might just look at the first row and they're going to click on whatever comes up. They're not going to bother going through all the bells and whistles or scrolling down and finding everything because it's just going to take too long. And honestly, the menu in Battlefield 6 is really confusing. It might be one of the worst implementations of this style of UI that I've seen in a video game in a while. On top of that, there's just so many tabs and so many places that you have to get into and out of and go to, and it can get really confusing really quickly. So this menu style doesn't work for a video game. Video games are meant to be more easier, I would say, than a streaming service, because in a streaming service, your goal is to continue to tailor recommendations, and I don't see why you would need to do that in a video game when there's, what, 5 modes? It's not like you have 100 movies and shows to pick from. You've got just some basic game modes that you gotta click into. With the way the menu is designed as well, Portal is effectively hidden on there, and it's not clear that it's even Portal. It's being called Community Experiences, which some people might not realize that you could have those turned off in your settings, and some people might not even realize that they're even there, that they're actually game modes that you can play through. So what's happened is the visibility of Portal is completely hidden on that UI, and so people don't know that this is Portal, and they're not going to click on it, or they might not even realize that they want to click on it. So one of the solutions Battlefield presented was to effectively push up the Portal experiences, or to feature them more prominently in the menu. But still, I don't know if that's enough to fix the problem, because there's fundamental underlying issues with the way this whole menu looks that is still going to confuse people and mess up the way they interact with the game. I think another problem that comes along with this is the fact that there's something weird with the Portal servers. So sometimes you'll go to load into a Portal game and it'll tell you that the servers are at full capacity, that there's an error, that you need to try again later. You might click on another server and it'll load in, or it'll do the same thing, then you go back to the original server and it works. I don't know what's up with that, but it's clearly an error, something on the back end probably, but that probably discourages people who might not have the patience to sit there and try different servers. They might click the first one, it doesn't work, well, I'm gonna go play Conquest or something like that. So all in all, it's kind of tough to say that there's an incentive for people to create Portal creations, because there's not enough people to play those creations. So you might spend hours upon hours creating this game mode that some people might not even play because they can't even see it or don't know it exists. I think Portal should have been something that was more prominent about this game, because Portal is a huge deal. The fact that it's got so many capabilities, that it's so robust and interesting, and also the fact that community is kind of a huge deal for these sorts of multiplayer games. If you foster a sense of community, you keep people coming back because to them this is fun. I had a lot of fun on the Portal games that I played because you could actually interact differently with players on that, because it's just more for fun. It's less competitive in some of these modes. I think also if they had just kind of pointed out to people, instead of calling it community experiences, they called it Portal in the actual menu, it might be a little bit easier. But there's a lack of a server browser, because the server browser that's in there is just a Portal browser, and that confuses people. All in all, I think the biggest issue with Battlefield 6 and Portal is confusion. And I think that the UI is contributing a lot to that confusion. Obviously, they can't just change the whole UI right now, but I feel like it definitely needs to be simplified. And honestly, game designers, seriously, we do not need streaming service looking UIs for video games. They are made for different purposes. They are for streaming services because that's what they work for. They work for a giant curated library of watchable titles, and they also constantly shuffle to recommend per user. Netflix isn't a video game, that's kind of why it works for Netflix, but it doesn't work for a game like Battlefield or a game like Call of Duty. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications set to all so you can stay up to date with all of the content here in the channel. And that's all for today, folks.